All right, how we doing, everybody? Today, there is a press conference taking place. I don't know if you can hear me. Let me just check this real quick. Yeah, it looks like you can hear me. Today, there is a press conference taking place. It starts at 1. I am going to be interviewing Vinny from Disclosure Team at that same time. So I'm going to let this run in the background. Again, it starts at 1. They have it live already, so I just started the live stream. That way I can go get ready for the interview with Vinny, but I will be keeping tabs on all of this, and we'll be referencing it. Again, it starts at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Pacific. So we still have about 28 minutes left. But they have this little placeholder here. So I figured, why not just let it go, and we'll see where it goes. What do you guys think about the Mummies? I mean, I'm not sold, but they say that they're going to be putting up some science on it, and kind of clearing up some of the air. So I'm hoping they do that. First, like I said, let's do some opening stuff. Again, we're brought to you as always by BioMind, produced by Adentia Herbals. So today's video is brought to you by BioMind. Get 25% off your bottle of absolute life-changing for me. I've been taking them for the past couple months. It's a supplement with performance mushrooms. It's got lion's mane, a bunch of different things in there that are promote neuron health, and just long-term memory increase. I've just had a clarity about me that I haven't had since I can remember. So it's absolutely changed my life. The links and stuff will be in the description below. Get 25% off using our code, and let's get this party started.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Oh, big dude.
They can still hear the audio, right? All right, guys. So I'm gonna go get set up for my interview with Vinny from Disclosure Team. Um, like I said, I'll be keeping an eye on this stream as well. I want to make sure that we're covering the press conference. Once I'm done with the interview with Vinny, I'll pop back on and we can discuss some of the stuff that was discussed. So I look forward to it. I hope you enjoy the press conference, guys.
The boost burn put our crew in an orbit where Dragon's apogee, or the highest point, will be 10 kilometers lower than the station. After that, we executed the close co-elliptic burn at 4:54 p.m. Pacific time. The close burn placed Dragon on an orbit roughly co-elliptic with the space station, meaning it was maintaining an orbit roughly 10 kilometers lower than the station the entire way around the Earth. That's in contrast to only being 10 kilometers lower than the station during Dragon's apogee, or the highest point in its orbit, which is achieved by the boost burn.
From there, at 6:44 p.m. Pacific, we executed the fourth major maneuver known as the transfer burn. This is where we're raising Dragon's apogee, or highest point of its orbit, to just 2.5 kilometers lower than space station. Then we rounded everything out with a final co-elliptic burn at 7:31 p.m. Pacific to once again maintain a constant orbit lower than the space station, this time just 2.5 kilometers below. This was a shorter burn, lasting just over 30 seconds.
During the approach, SpaceX flight controllers will work in tandem with the NASA team in Houston to maneuver Dragon Endeavour to the proper attitude. They will initialize the navigation sensors used for the methodical approach to station. They'll also activate and test out a number of systems on Dragon, including bidirectional communications with the station using the C2V2 system. C2V2 stands for Common Communications for Visiting Vehicles. It sets up a data stream from Dragon to the station, giving another path for Dragon telemetry to come to the ground and giving an additional command capability to astronauts aboard the station.
At approximately 10:03 p.m. Pacific, Draco thrusters on Dragon will fire for the approach. Well, this actually just happened, right? We just had the approach initiation burn here just a couple of minutes ago. And all of that went really smoothly. It helped to swing Dragon about 202.5 kilometers below space station and just about 7 kilometers behind it. And eventually, it will help us get to 400 meters directly below the space station. This maneuver also moves Dragon inside one of 2 checkpoints around the station that requires a set of go, no-go polls with the different control teams. That first checkpoint is called the approach ellipsoid, or as you might hear it called, the AE. It's an imaginary shape measuring 4 kilometers by 2 kilometers by 2 kilometers, and is essentially a 3-dimensional oval. Before Dragon is given permission to move inside that approach ellipsoid, the capsule is configured to be on what is known as a 24-hour safe trajectory, which means that if Dragon lost all control to its thrusters, it would be at least 24 hours before its trajectory would move inside the approach ellipsoid.
The NASA and SpaceX teams will do a go-no-go poll to move Dragon inside of the keep-out sphere, another checkpoint that consists of an imaginary sphere around the station with a radius of 200 meters. Flight controllers use this to monitor all arriving and departing vehicles. This is another chance to confirm all the guidance, navigation, and control systems are working correctly on Dragon before moving closer to station. It carries a similar requirement on the orbital trajectory that if Dragon were to somehow lose control of its thrusters, it and the space station would be safe for 4 orbits, or about 6 hours, rather than the 24 hours required to enter the approach ellipsoid. Once Dragon arrives at 400 meters below station, it will be at what is known as waypoint 0 and will be the first checkpoint during our approach. The vehicle can hold here at 400 meters, but if all of its systems check out, it can continue to approach to waypoint 1.
Dragon's move from waypoint 0 to waypoint 1 will swing it up and out in front of the space station, arriving at a distance of approximately 220 meters. At this point, it will be on what is called the docking axis, which essentially means it is directly in front of the docking port. The crew are headed to the forward-most port on the space station, which is called the Node 2 forward and is the Earth-facing port. Dragon has docked to Node 2, also known as Harmony, for all the crewed missions so far, because that's where both international docking adapters are located and installed for new commercial spacecraft flights, as well as any other future spacecraft that use the international docking standard.
Once Dragon is only 20 meters away at waypoint 2, the spacecraft focuses on aligning its docking system with the international docking adapter. We may hear the call-out CHOP, which stands for Crew Hands-Off Point, a little less than 30 seconds before docking. At this point, any aborts will have to be done automatically by Dragon.
And Then it will be the time we have been eagerly anticipating, the grand arrival when our crew arrives at the space station. We are targeting that contact at 11:28 a.m. Pacific. PM, 11:28 p.m. Pacific, and Dragon will fly in and make contact with the IDA, giving us what we call soft capture. The soft capture ring then retracts until sensors indicate it's time for 12 hooks to drive in place to give us a hard capture and firmly secure Dragon to its new home on the space station. From there, the station crew, namely NASA astronaut Jasmine Mogbelli, will manually pressurize the vestibule, or the area between the Dragon hatch and the station hatch. Meanwhile, umbilicals that provide power, audio, and data connections from the station to Dragon are put in place. Then it's time for leak checks, hatch opening, which is currently timeline to come a little more than 2 hours following docking.
Now, as we continue to count down to docking, let's take a closer look at the Dragon spacecraft that is taking Crew 8 to the International Space Station today. The Dragon spacecraft and its trunk stand over 26 feet tall. There are 2 windows on the spacecraft, plus one under the nose cone. The nose cone opens shortly after launch to expose the forward bulkhead thrusters and docking mechanism that will connect with the space station. Dragon's trunk holds solar cells, which power Dragon while it's in free flight, and the trunk can also carry unpressurized cargo.
Dragon has 16 Draco thrusters that can be used in space to help navigate the spacecraft to its destination. Each provides about 90 pounds of force, but that doesn't include the 8 Super Draco thrusters used for an abort, which are no longer active once the crew is in orbit.
And for those of you following along, you'll know that the Dragon spacecraft has played a significant role in advancing our future in space by safely transporting crew to and from the International Space Station. There are currently 4 Dragon spacecraft supporting human spaceflight missions that have docked to the station. That's Endeavour, Resilience, Endurance, and Freedom.
As you saw in the video, Crew 8 are on board Endeavour, which previously flew NASA's SpaceX Demo Mission 2, Crew 2, and Crew 6, in addition to AX-1, the first commercial astronaut mission to the space station. Altogether, the reusable Dragon spacecraft has completed 7 human spaceflight missions on behalf of NASA and visited the station 38 times under NASA's commercial resupply and commercial crew programs.
Over the last 23 years, crews aboard the space station have completed thousands of scientific and educational experiments, and Crew 8 is prepared to add to that growing number. Crew 8 will conduct hundreds of science experiments and technology demonstrations during their mission. They will spend several months working in our orbital laboratory. Having more crew members on board significantly expands the amount of research that can be conducted. This crew will conduct new scientific research to prepare for human exploration beyond low Earth orbit and benefit humanity on Earth. Experiments include stem cells to create organoid models to study degenerative diseases, studying the effects of microgravity and UV radiation on plants at a cellular level, and testing whether wearing pressure cuffs on the legs could prevent fluid shifts and reduce health problems in astronauts.
These are just a few of the more than 200 scientific experiments and technology demonstrations taking place during Crew 8's mission. During their mission, the crew will perform dozens of investigations sponsored by the ISS National Laboratory. These projects span a wide range of disciplines, from life and physical sciences to advanced materials, technology development, in-space production applications, and even student-led research. Results from these studies will bring value to humanity, furthering our ability to explore and enabling a robust market in low Earth orbit. So again, we are really looking forward to docking, but let's talk a little bit more about some of the science that is flying on board. So one of those is a human brain organoid model for neurodegenerative disease and drug discovery called H-bond, and it studies the mechanisms behind neuroinflammation, which is a common feature of neurodegenerative disorders. Researchers create organoids using patent-derived iPSCs, which are induced pluripotent stem cells from patients who have Parkinson's disease and primary progressive multiple sclerosis. The 6th Space Station Organoid Investigation, funded by the National Stem Cell Foundation, H-bond, includes for the first time Alzheimer's iPSCs and testing of the effects of drugs in development to treat neuroinflammation. Results could help improve diagnostics, provide insights into the effects of aging, accelerate drug discovery, and even identify therapeutic targets for patients suffering from neurodegenerative diseases. The organoid models also could provide a way to anticipate how extended spaceflight affects the brain and supportive development of countermeasures. Another experiment that is flying includes plants, and we do have a variety of plant experiments that fly and are being grown at any given time on the International Space Station, for example, tomatoes. But another one that's flying is and sometimes even the plants can be used for food, which is exciting, and the crew always looks forward to having fresh food on board the International Space Station. But the study on plant responses against the stresses of microgravity and high ultraviolet radiation in space, or plant UVB, examines how stress from microgravity, UV radiation, and the combination of the two affect plants at the molecular, cellular, and whole organism levels. Results could increase understanding of plant growth in space and support improvements in plant cultivation technologies for future missions. And this is really important, especially as we journey out to the moon, Mars, and beyond. And in order for us to be successful, we really would like to have the opportunity to grow plants on those missions. So I'm really looking forward to seeing the results from this particular experiment. Another experiment that's flying on board Crew 8 involves weightlessness, which causes fluid shift in the body to move toward the head and can cause changes in eye structure and vision, known as spaceflight association neuroocular syndrome, or SANS, along with other health problems. Mitigating head where fluid shifts from venoconstructive thigh cuffs during spaceflight, or thigh cuff for short, examines whether thigh pressure cuffs could provide a simple way to counter this shift in body fluids and help protect astronauts from SANS and other issues on future missions to the moon and Mars. Thigh cuffs could also help treat or prevent problems for patients on Earth who have conditions that cause fluid accumulation in the head, such as long-term bed rest and other diseases. So we'll continue to highlight more of the science that is flying on Crew 8 throughout the rest of the broadcast. But again, we are really looking forward to all of this great science that is flying. In all, there's more than 200 science experiments flying on board Crew 8. So we are coming up on a couple more milestones here as we track towards docking. Again, everything is continuing to go really smoothly. Crew 8 is on their way to the International Space Station. As we mentioned before, there are 3 first-time flyers on board this mission, as well as 1 veteran NASA astronaut, Michael Barrett. And so here soon we should be able to see our first views of the Dragon from the International Space Station as it continues to...
SpaceX Dragon CDR student subject.
I have you loud and clear. How me?
The same.
We are getting some comms from the core to the crew.
They are working to set up the big loop, which is an integrated communications loop between the International Space Station here in Hawthorne, as well as Mission Control in Houston. So they'll get that set up so that everyone can communicate on the same loop. So they're working through that procedure right now. So at this time, Crew 8 is about 3,250 meters away from the International Space Station. We will continue to see that number get smaller and smaller, of course, throughout our show tonight and as we lead up to docking.
Yes, and if you are just now joining us, we have had a few burns already with Dragon making its way to the International Space Station. We've completed the phase burn, the boost burn, close burn, transfer burn, and the co-elliptic burn, as well as the approach initiation burn. So we are getting closer and closer as Dragon approaches the International Space Station with Crew 8, again with 3 members flying in space for the first time and 1 veteran crew member on board. And we're just about a little over an hour, or a little under an hour